Point.
Three politicians without a microphone.
Good morning. I'm Berks County Commissioner Christian Leinbach, and I want to welcome you to our Commissioners Board meeting for Thursday, December the 19th. We're broadcasting live via Microsoft Teams live event and also on BCTV, as well as our own Facebook and YouTube live channels. At this time, we'll begin the meeting with a moment of silence, followed by a pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll recognize my executive assistant, Anne Marie Grill, to read the public comment policy.
Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. Public comment will be accepted in person and through the Q&A function. Please include your first name, last name, and municipality for all comments. Any comments without name and municipality will not be considered. Each citizen can submit one comment. Comment length is dictated by limitations of the platform being used. In-person comments will be accepted first, followed by comments submitted virtually. The meeting comment period is limited to a total of 30 minutes, including both in-person and virtual comments. This time period may be extended at the discretion of the board. Please be concise. Comments that are germane to county business will be read during the meeting and should not be considered to be interactive dialogue with the commissioners. The county solicitor shall be the final arbiter of whether a comment is germane and should be read. Any commissioner response to public comment will be done at the discretion of the commissioners.
Thank you very much, Anne Marie. Are there any additions or corrections for the December 12th meeting minutes? Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as presented. We did have one executive session on December the 18th dealing with litigation, personnel, and contracts. Is there any public comment on specific agenda items? I see nothing online, nothing in person. We will move forward with the agenda. Item 1, authorizing under that, but you jumped right over it. There's a minor item here. At least I caught it. We're going to begin with a presentation from our Chief Financial Officer, Bob Patrizio. But before we actually have his presentation, I want to recognize my colleagues for the purpose of noting letters of conflict. I'll begin that. I have a letter dated December the 3rd. I'm not going to read it. It's the same as the last couple of years, but it outlines areas of conflict because of service I have on particular boards. For me, those are BCTV, the Berks County Community Television, the Berks County Conservation District, the Berks County Water and Sewer Association, the Reading Regional Airport Authority, and the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority. I'm requesting that this letter be entered into the record and am giving that to our chief clerk.
I have my letter as well. That is dated December the 19th, and it discloses a conflict of interest respecting the funding of the Berks County Redevelopment Authority, the Center for Excellence in Local Government, and the Reading Regional Airport Authority. I'm providing this letter so it may be entered into record.
And I would also want to enter a letter to our Chief Clerk, Amanda Bensel, dated December 19, 2024, listing my service on the Reading Area Regional Airport Authority, and I would enter that letter into the record as well.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll move now to our Chief Financial Officer, Bob Patrizio, to present the final 2025 Berks County proposed budget. This is based on work since the preliminary presentation in November. Bob?
Thank you, commissioners. Let me just, let me get this up and ready to go. Ready to go now. Okay, so thank you again. As you know, we proposed the budget on November 21st, 2024. We made the budget available for the minimum of the 20-day public inspection requirement by posting it to the county website, making it available for review at the Budget and Finance and Commissioner offices, and also on related web pages. As of last evening, neither we, the Budget and Finance team, nor the COO team have received any comments or inquiries from the public. While we've made changes to the budget, none rise to a level that would require under a county code an additional 10 days of public inspection, and that is on a item by item basis. Therefore, at the conclusion of this presentation, the board will be able to take action on a budget resolution for 2025. Since we proposed the budget, we made revisions based upon more current information as follows. We increased the revenue from all funds by $18.2 million. That included real estate tax increase of $100,000 for a total budget of $179.7 million of tax revenue. That would be current year tax billing March 1st, interims, and tax claim collections. The primary reason was we had an increase in our assessed values, particularly for the month of October, which I noted when we presented the budget. It enabled us to generate a little more revenue in next year's budget. We received the state notified us that they were increasing our health choices allocation by way of higher capitation rates and utilization. Same with mental health services, 1.3, health choices 16.3, mental health services 1.3 million, again, increase in our base funding allocation. And for both of those, you'll see when we get to the expenditure slide, there's a corresponding increase in expenditures. Right. Because these two items don't, well, health choices never cost the county money.
Yeah, they're pass-throughs.
Yes, and there seems to be always more service to be demand than there is money. So that one's fine. And in MHDD, the vast majority of that ends up in expenditures. Mm-hmm. And there's a county match, and that's included in the expenditure side, and I'll show you that in a minute. Berks IGT contribution to the general fund in the proposed budget. When we cut it off, we knew we were $500,000 too low on the net asset transfer from Berksheim to the general fund. So this is actually revenue in the general fund. That's a correction to the proposed budget. 911 Comm Center, we have a $100,000 increase in revenues. We estimated a 2.2% increase for CPI on the municipality participation because it's tied to CPI. And now that we're closer to the measurement date, we realize that can be higher. So we adjusted it to 3.5%. The impact on that was about $53,000, $54,000. And then they had an interconnectivity grant, which is an extra $45,000 that came to the forefront, and we put that in the budget as well. And liquid fuel allocation was lowered by $100,000 by the state. That really didn't affect our capital plan for bridges and the like at all. So we're fine with that. On the expenditure side, we increased expenditures all funds by $19.1 million. Primarily personnel. This isn't a big change in personnel, but since personnel is $205 million expenditure in our budget, I thought it was worthy of noting this. FTEs were lowered by 9.5 full-time equivalent positions to 2,140.5 from proposed.
So Bob, just so we touch on this, because people are following, they know that the county property tax is 179 million.
Yes.
And you just noted that the salaries, wages, and benefits is 205 million. Yes. The reason for the disparity is a significant number of those, especially in social services, are funded through pass-throughs from state and federal dollars.
That is absolutely correct. Yes. And a lot of times on our pie chart in the budget book,
right,
you can see that as well.
Right.
And then, so we had a $400,000 reduction in wages since proposed, and that was, a handful of departments or a little more responding to the COO letter that went out before we proposed the budget, but continuing down that path to look at where else do we have opportunities. And, we were pleased as a team to see that. But on the other hand, we had to increase our health fringe benefit budget. You'll recall that we increased the threshold for our stop loss insurance so we could get a lower increase in our annual premium. I've looked at that every year since we've been self-insured, and we did this once before, but this is the first time we've done that in about 12 years. And it was the first time in 12 years it actually made sense to do it. So we added about $225,000 back for that based on how many large claims we anticipate to have. And we also allowed for higher enrollment, i.e. lower number of vacancies. So that's how you get to a positive increase of $1 million on personnel. Retiree self-insured health under 65. In the proposed budget, we should have been 200,000 higher on that, and we're correcting the proposed budget for this change. Capital plan, there's an increase of 300,000. It's primarily wastewater treatment plant bar screen project. That's 400,000. And then there was a lot of small moving parts, but it netted down to 100,000 net reduction with cost changes, more current cost estimates for a net increase of 300,000. The total budget's 43.4 million. This change was 100% general fund. So the general fund contribution went from 17.8 million in proposed to 18.1 in adopted. The amount allocated for bond financing, 18.1 million, and funding from other sources of grant revenue, particularly in our special revenue type funds, think liquid fuels, at 7.2 million. Those two remained unchanged. Here's the health choices, 16.3, corollary to the revenue item of 16.3. And it can only be, these are restricted funds, commissioners, as you know. These funds can only be used for this specific purpose. They can never be used for general county government operations. And the same thing with MHDD or mental health services. That's the increase in the base funding. Now, that's 1.2 million is going to be for services, and I'm rounding. It was actually a $58,000 increase in the match. It's 4.5% on mental health services.
But the reality is these two items make up 17.6 million
Yes,
of the 19.1 million increase
100%.
and have no impact on Berks County property tax rates.
Wait a minute, sorry. Let me get back to this. I hit the wrong key here.
There you go.
That is correct, and you stole my thunder. I was going to make that point
Oh,
myself, but that's okay. I've said before, I like when this becomes a dialogue. I think it's more interesting. And then the IGT, here's the net asset transfer. Here's the expense on Berksheim fixing that 500,000. The number needed to be 14.6 million, and it was 14.1 in the proposed budget. So we're making that correction. That's expense on Berksheim, and I'll show you in a later slide that reduced the Berksheim net income. This is the primary reason. And then the general fund IGT payment to the state, we had it at 14.1 million in the proposed budget, and it should have been 14.6. That's really the tail wagging the dog for the other two adjustments, because that's what we have to pay to the state. And just a sidebar note, commissioners, so we make a contribution to the state under an intergovernmental transfer program. The state is allowed to use that money to get a bigger federal match of Medicaid dollars. They then get that money, they give us back what we invested to the state. And in our case, they give us an extra $13 million of Medicaid revenue at Berksheim. That, I mean, literally is the bottom line impact, right? So, and quite frankly, that's key to maintaining the stability, I think, not just of our county-owned and operating nursing home, but any county-owned and operating nursing home. Because as you know, we're the backdrop for truly the indigent in the community that need care. And we always have far more Medicaid beds than a private facility.
and the difference there is we put that money in up front.
Yeah.
So it allows the Commonwealth to access significantly more Medicaid dollars than if the Commonwealth only put their money in. That's what generates the additional. I remember in the early days, I struggled to figure out what the heck IGT was, but it's a unique.
It's a federal concept.
It's
really.
it's a unique concept relative to Medicaid, and for us, the biggest impact is the county nursing home.
Yes, sir. Agreed. I'll mention here that the sum of the revenue and expenditure changes is a net of 900,000 increase in our deficit from all funds. I mentioned it before I go to the next slide, and the impact of this on our unassigned fund balance, which can be used for any governmental purpose, projected at 12/31/25 as it went down to 139.6 million, $100,000 decrease. And we also had other net expense reduction. I forgot to click on that. That's just other revisions we made for precision, netted down to $100,000 reduction. So that brings us to where we are today. We have a budget. We're recommending with these changes an expenditure budget for the general fund of $312.3 million. We're actually required to stipulate that by county code along with the tax millage rate. And we're also asking that we adopt a budget for total expenditures, all funds, of $705.8 million. If you look up at the general fund, you can see we've increased the deficit from all funds by 200,000. I would tag that to the increase in the capital, 300,000, because it's general fund, offset by the $100,000 in increase in the tax revenue, which is also general fund. Just as a reminder, the 44.2 million, 44 million of that is related to the COVID community support, the obligations we made for COVID relief, and also the support of the Imagine Berks plan, which we believe is going to drive an increase in taxable assessed value through organic business economic development. That two of those combines 44 million. So that's primarily that. And when you look down the bottom, you can see the difference between the deficit and the 900,000. Just a very brief recap. When I look at that, if somebody said to me, so what is that really? I know you just went through two slides. It's the increase in the IGT payment to the state, 500,000. It's the increase in the retiree health under 65, 200,000. It's the increase in the general fund capital, 300,000, offset by the tax revenue increase of 100,000. And that's pretty much that. So that brings us to this slide. And this is the one that represents what is our general governmental funds operating surplus or deficit. This is the one where our policy states that we cannot allow this to become a deficit that begins to grow year over year without taking care of the issue. And we either got to cut expenses significantly in services, or we have to raise tax rate at an appropriate rate. And I'll point out, just for the taxpayers' purposes, the top line is what we had on the prior slide. It's the deficit from all funds. The things between there and the bottom line of 0 and 0 are of one of two things. It's funds that have special revenue sources that are restricted to particular use and can only be used for that purpose. And also they have their own fund balances and net assets. So if they do have more expenses greater than revenue in a particular year, sometimes it's revenue greater than expenses, they have net assets and fund reserves to draw on. So we would never raise taxes for those type of programs. The other items at the bottom of the table, and we'll start with use of fund balance, COVID community relief. This is intentional use of reserves, 25.9 million, as is the general fund capital, which I mentioned, 18.1 million. On that line, you can also see the $300,000 increase. The only other item I'm going to bring attention to before I make my final comment here is Berks line. You could see we had proposed 2.7 million net income. Net income is reducing our deficit for all funds. It's reducing our deficit for general governmental purposes, and we don't want to do that. So we want to add that back or take that out of the equation so we can make sure for everything else that's governmental services related that we're balanced. But that's a $600,000 decrease. It's the 500,000 increase in the expense. We also had to increase wages that rounded up to 100,000 for this purpose, and we added funded to 3 more positions, full-time, part-time. Bottom line is we're balanced at 0, and based on that, we're continuing to recommend an 8% tax increase at a millage rate of 9.013 mils. The impact of that is an increase per year on 100,000 assessed value of $66.80 or $1.28 per week. With that, Commissioners, that completes our update. I will turn it back to you for questions, comments, and ratification of a 2025 budget. And I thank you for your attention and your time.
Comments from my colleagues?
Just again, as we did back in November, want to thank Bob and Lauren, the team, for the great work that they do. I know they watch the county's money. Well, jokingly, Bob says he watches the county's money better than his own. So we really appreciate that you put in that effort, because this is taxpayer money and we are all responsible for that. Although no one likes a tax increase, it is something that is necessary. And we need to make sure that we're doing it as needed and not pushing it. And then the time comes when we have to do a double digit or more, even a 20 or 30% increase. That is something we don't want. So I do appreciate your efforts in preparing this budget today. I know it takes a lot of work. Many times I'll be in the garage at 6, 7 o'clock and I'll see Bob's car there. I know he parks a few spaces next to mine, and he's here till late. So really do appreciate the work that all of you do for the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll have comments after the motion, but as of now, I just want to thank Bob and his team for the great work that they do. And it's important to point out that there was no change in the proposed tax rate from when we heard you talk in November till today. So that's all remained the same, despite some of the changes that we heard about today. So I'll have further comments after we make the motion.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the purpose of discussion and a vote?
We'll make that motion.
I'll second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just a few brief comments. This is my first budget. Again, I want to thank Bob and his team for the great work that they do. There is a proposed 8% tax increase in the budget, and I don't think anybody likes to vote for a tax increase. But we as a county are tasked, in a lot of cases, we're mandated to provide services for the people that we represent. And I'm just going to go through a couple of the services that we provide for our community. We provide services through our Area Agency on Aging for our senior population, well-deserved services that they need and are entitled to. We provide numerous services to our veterans throughout the county. Of course, they deserve them as well, providing the service that they provide to our country and the freedoms that they fought for. Through our mental health and developmental disability, we provide services for young and old people with mental health issues. And I think it's important to point those out. Public safety is a big part of our budget. And there's a lot of things under public safety. The courts, of course, we provide services to the prison to make sure that our communities are safe, our youth shelter. We provide services to our district attorney and our public defender, district attorney, so he can fight crime and provide the services that we need, and also in the public defender's office for the constitutional rights that people have to have representation when they're accused of a crime. Our emergency management services is a large part of our budget and important to provide safety to our community. These are just a few of the items, and we're asked to provide those services with really basically one funding source, and that's our property tax. We would like to change that. I would ask, and I've served in the legislature, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, give us options, as alternative options to provide resources that we might need. We gave that. I voted for it to our colleagues in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. They're entitled to provide, if they so desire, another 1% on the sales tax. We would love that option. So I encourage my friends in the legislature to give us that option so that we don't have to rely 100% on our property tax to provide these services. We have 2,000 employees that do a great job. We want to make sure that we provide a livable wage and benefits for them as well. There's no fluff in this budget. I think we have, as a board, have tightened our belts. We are doing our best to provide the services that people need at the price that we hope is reasonable. I just want to, our proposed tax increase is 8%. I just want to go through a couple of other counties. I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong, but I'm going, it's a tough year. It's a challenging year for counties. Dauphin County is raising their property taxes 21.8%. Chester County is raising their property taxes 13%. Delaware County is raising their property taxes 23%. Montgomery, 9%. Allegheny County is raising their property taxes 36%. So at 8%, again, nobody wants to vote for a tax increase, but I think we're doing it at a reasonable and a good manner to provide the services, as I've said, that people deserve. So thank you again, Bob, and that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I want to make a few comments. I have spoken to several constituents since the November presentation. None of them were happy with the tax increase. Several people that I spoke to are on fixed incomes and don't know where they're going to come up with additional dollars. I appreciate very much the way Bob and Laura break down the impact, $66 plus per 100,000. But again, when somebody's on a fixed income, that doesn't matter. They don't have more money. And I understand that challenge. One of the things that I discussed with every one of them is it's not just enough to look at whether there's a tax increase or not a tax increase. I'm aware of a municipality here in Berks County that has the highest municipal property tax, and they didn't have a tax increase this year. That sounds really great, except when you look at their rate is over double the rate of the county. And that's because over the years is what matters. What kind of fiscal controls and constraint does a government body show over a period of time? I've talked about this before, but I think it's very important to understand that since 2008, there has been a fundamental change in the way Berks County views both spending and tax increases. Prior to 2008, and I've gone back to 1995, from 95 till 2008, there was roughly a not quite 30%, 29% increase in CPI. In that same period of time, there were 3 tax increases, one of approximately 39%, a second of approximately 19%, and a third of approximately 34%, totaling over 90% increase in the same period of time. It's almost 3 times the rate of inflation. And here was the philosophy, and I know this because I heard this from Bob Patrizio, who was here since 2004. You wait until you're out of money, and then you put in a tax increase as high as you think you can get away with. That is not fiscal responsibility. Since 2008 until, and I only did this through October of 2024 because that was the latest data I could pull together, the CPI was 49.55%. Through October of this year, the county increased taxes 3 times, all of which were single digit, for a total of 19.1%. That is very responsible fiscal management. Now, I also get, and not hiding from this, we did a 9% increase this year, and we're looking at an 8% increase in 2025. That's rough. But even when you look at that compared to the inflation we've dealt with over the last 6 years, that is still well below the rate of inflation. There's one other factor, and this is what I was joking about before, and joking's the wrong word, but I last night was thinking about this and charting in my mind CPI, Berks County tax rate, And I realized after 17 years, there's another delta that we don't talk about very often. And that is the rate of increase of the organic property tax revenues, apart from a tax increase. And when you look at property tax, and this is the issue that you're alluding to, Commissioner, it does not reflect the economy. So when the economy is down, and I don't know that we've had zero inflation since I've been here. It's been very low. But in the worst environment, probably 2011, I think, our receipts were like 0.1% higher than the year prior. In an inflationary environment, what was the best we've had in the last 4 years in an increase? 2? Did we hit 2%? So when we look at the increase year over year of property tax revenue apart from a tax increase.
Okay. Oh, you're asking what's the low?
What's the high?
Oh, the high?
In the last
it was one of the
3-4
last
years.
2 years, so it was 2.25%.
Okay. So you're looking at, we had some years of 8%.
0.07%
Yeah.
was the low.
So it doesn't keep up and it creates a bigger delta. If you just look at the CPI and you just look at the tax rate in Berks County and you don't look at the low increase of organic growth of property tax, you miss the overall delta. And hopefully I didn't lose people on that, but that's the challenge of relying on property tax. It's one of the things I've told people, I don't believe government should be raising revenue on property tax. It shows how unfair it is. People who lose a job in a particular year, if their taxes were based on sales tax and income, it would be reflected. But when it's based on the value of their home, the value of their home doesn't change, even though their income dramatically decreases. It is the problem with reliance on property tax. The last thing I want to note is since March of 2019, Berks County has continued to hold the highest bond rating possible, AAA, Moody bond rating. That represents the top 5% of counties in Pennsylvania and the top 5% of counties in the United States. And what it says is you in Berks County are one of the best fiscally managed counties in the state and in the country. We want to continue to do that. And acting responsibly means I will support an 8% tax increase in 2025. If I played politics and said, no, I'm not going to support it, it's not going to go down. It's going to go up and it's going to become a bigger and bigger hit. And if you don't believe that, look at what is happening in some municipalities and some counties around us. They've waited too long. And now imagine your tax bill not going up by 8%, but going up by 25% or 23% or even 13%. That's a lot harder for people to handle. So again, I understand. I don't want to raise taxes, but I believe it is the right and responsible thing to do, and to not do it now creates much greater pain for our taxpayers in future years.
A few things to add, and I'm agreeing with both of my colleagues here, so I'm not going to repeat what they said, but a few other things to add is, one, also, we were able to keep the increase at 8% thanks to the help of our departments as well. You know, our COO sent out an email asking to, a budget diet, to go on a budget diet, and they asked all the department heads to look at where they could help cut funds, reduce expenses. And they did that, and that's why we're able to maintain it at 8% rather than what other counties had to do, which was a much larger increase. So I want to also take the opportunity to thank our department heads who looked into that budget, dove deep into it, and it's something I think we need to continue to do. on a regular basis, because you may look at it and say, well, we've always done things this way, but we need to look at ways we can improve. So department heads, thank you for that. One other item I want to add, which affects the county's budget, and we have no control over, are unfunded mandates. When the state says you need to do this, but there's no money for it, so go find the money. Fortunately, as Commissioner Santoni said, the main way the county funds its budget is through property taxes. So if the state is saying, go do this, but there's no money for it, that obligates us to find the money, and usually that will be through property taxes. So I want to encourage our state legislature as well, if they are requiring counties to do something, that they also provide the necessary funding for that, so it does not continue to put the burden on the taxpayers. That's all I have.
Very, very good points. Appreciate that. Anything else? Okay. The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you again, Bob. We have your whole team here. I appreciate the work you do. And get back to work and start working on the 2026 budget. Now, they don't have to do it quite that soon, but as Lauren, Bob know, and the team know, they're really starting in on it right after the first of the year. It gets very, I don't want to say public, but internally significant in May of each year, where there's a meeting with the department heads. And at that point in time, they're able to give them data on the first several months of the year, what trends they see. Hopefully, but rarely at that time do we know where the state is going with their budget, because they normally take it down to the wire or beyond the wire, which is July 1 is when they're supposed to. But thank you very much. Yes, Bob.
I mean, literally, we've started on our 5-year forecast update.
There you go.
So,
well, thank you very much. We're moving on with the agenda. Item 1, authorizing under that budget department, adopt a resolution authorizing 2024 budget transfers in the amount of $144,044 and 2024 appropriations in the amount of $99,116 per listing dated December 13th of 2024. There's several items listed under HR. Item 1, authorize the appointment of Melissa Lopez to licensed social worker, Berks County Youth Shelter. Item 2, authorize the promotion of Rebecca Oxenrider from Assistant Real Estate Administrator to Real Estate Administrator in the Sheriff's Department. Item 3, authorize the promotion of Samantha Watson from Administrative Assistant to Office Manager in the Sheriff's Department. Item 4, authorize the promotion of Penny David Heiser from Shelter Care Counselor to Shelter Care Supervisor, Berks County Youth Shelter. Item 5, authorize the promotion of Eric Muhlenberg from Assistant Public Defender 3 to Assistant Public Defender 4 in the Public Defender's Office. I have one item listed under myself. Adopt a resolution authorizing the appointment of Marietta G. Wirt, Laureldale, Pennsylvania, to the Berks County Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board for a 3-year term effective January 1 of 2025 and expiring on December 31st of 2027. I have several items under Commissioner Rivera. Item A, adopt a resolution authorizing the appointment of Ann DeRiso, Ole PA, to the Berks County Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board for a 3-year term effective January 1st of 2025 and expiring December 31st of 2027. Item B, adopt a resolution authorizing the appointment of Cindy Malian, Reading, Pennsylvania, to the Berks County Children and Youth Services Advisory Board for a 3-year term effective January 1 of 2025 and expiring on December 31st of 2027. Item C, adopt a resolution authorizing the reappointment of Sherry Cameron, Mooresville, PA, to the Berks County Children and Youth Advisory Board for a 3-year term effective January 1 of 2025 and expiring December 31st of 2027. And item D, adopt a resolution authorizing the reappointment of Melissa D'Amata, Reading, PA, to the Berks County Children and Youth Advisory Board for a 3-year term effective January 1 of 2025 and expiring on December 31st of 2027. I have one item listed under Commissioner Santoni. Adopt a resolution authorizing the appointment of John S. Nelka, West Reading, Pennsylvania, to the Reading Public Library Board of Trustees for a 5-year term effective January 1 of 2025 and expiring on December 31st of 2029. There are several items listed under the commissioners. Item A, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to execute the settlement agreement and release between the County of Berks and the County of Dauphin related to property damage sustained by the County of Berks on August the 9th, 2024, as a result of a Dauphin County vehicle striking and causing damage to a vehicle owned by the County of Berks in the amount of $977.95. I'm wondering if the effort to put this together cost more than the actual claim. Don't know, but that's the first thing that came to mind when I read it before. Item B, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to execute the Berks County Infrastructure Loan Fund Agreement with the Berks County Industrial Development Authority for the purpose of implementing an infrastructure investment program with initial funding by the county up to $5 million as authorized by resolution number 467-2022. We actually have Jeremy Zabrowski here. Jeremy, would you like to say anything about this? Jeremy is the executive director of the Berks County Industrial Development Authority and has been working very closely with Pam Mennett, our director of community and economic development, on this program.
Sure, Commissioner. I want to thank the commissioners on the effort in putting this together. This was a commissioner-led effort to look at how to get an ROI on investment inside Berks County. So these funds will be passed through to municipalities for investment within their respective areas that would allow property tax growth through business development and business growth. By way of example, Berks Park 183 out next to the airport, an industrial development project of the IDAs, to date in the past just 2 years, has begun to generate over $500,000 a year in additional property tax value for Berks County. By the end of next year, that'll be up to $1 million in additional property tax value. The commissioners saw the value of this and said we need to do similar infrastructure investments to see that accretion in value for our community in job creation and property tax creation without having annual property tax increases to do that. So I'm glad to be a part of the county's vision and to administer those funds on behalf of the commissioners.
And I want to note this is not being funded with county property tax dollars. This is part of the American Rescue Plan dollars. I know that when we established the foundational rules, number one was we didn't want to simply put money in for a one-time use that had no benefit. We were looking for long-term benefit. This was one of them. This is a one-time commitment of ARPA dollars and is not something that we're committed to going forward. When I say committed to from a dollars, you may want to touch on how the fund is designed with the relative to the dollars that go out, et cetera.
Yeah, so the fund is structured to be a low interest loan that would become a revolving loan program in the county. The funds remain in the county's coffers and in the county's budget until such a time as we have a project that makes sense and that a audit committee or a review committee made up of by the CFO, the Community and Economic Development Director of the county, and the IDA Executive Director will review and approve. And then those funds will be lent out until such a time they remain in the county. Once those funds have been lent out and successfully repaid, they go into a revolving loan fund that will be re-lent out into perpetuity on behalf of the county's goals with the fund.
I also believe, Commissioner Rivera, you were a significant part of this in its infancy.
Yeah.
Talking to folks from Dauphin County, setting up meetings. I know that you worked with Pam and also with the IDA. I don't know if you have any comments.
I'm just glad this came to fruition. I think we started looking at this maybe 3 years ago, Jeremy. We had various meetings looking at which would be the best way to set it up. There were different options that this type of funding could be handled. And with the help of our CFO and Laura, the IDA, Pam, we determined that this was the best way to make the use of this money which would have the longest impact on the county. So I want to thank everyone that was involved in this and took their time to look into it and make sure that we have something that will benefit the county.
That's absolutely correct. This was an effort that was spearheaded by the commissioner's goals of using these one-time dollars as a legacy for Berks County and not just have them disappear, but have them really create permanent value in the county. And Commissioner Rivera ran with that and spearheaded the entire effort. So yeah, that absolutely needs to be noted.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Sounds good. Okay, item C. Adopt a resolution authorizing the full amount of the mandatory employee contributions to the employee thrift plan for the period beginning January 1, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2024 to be withheld from the gross pay of each covered employee and shall be picked up, assumed and paid to the plan by the County of Berks. Item D, adopt a resolution authorizing the chair to execute the payment in lieu of taxes agreement between Benai Brith, House of Reading, Inc., and the County of Berks and the Reading School District and the City of Reading and the Berks County Board of Assessment Appeals, subject to final review and approval of the terms by the County Solicitor's Office. Item E, adopt a resolution authorizing the revisions dated December 13th of 2024 to the Berks County Workforce Development Board bylaws as required by the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry Workforce System Policy of June 10, 2024, and in accordance with Section 107 of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act of 2014. Item F, adopt a resolution authorizing the approval of the Berks County Workforce Development Board nomination policy effective January 1 of 2025 that outlines the process by which the chairperson of Berks County Board of Commissioners as chief elected official receives nominations to appoint members to the Berks County Workforce Development Board to ensure a diverse and effective representation of stakeholders in the Berks County workforce development system. And item G, adopt a resolution authorizing EH&D Insurance to bind the county public official crime wrap plus policy with Travelers Insurance for the period January 1 of 2025 through December 31st of 2027. Item 2, a motion to authorize the execution of contract agreements and amendments as set forth in the contract agenda listing dated December the 6th. There are a total of 23 contracts, 2 with the Area Agency on Aging, 2 with Berksheim, 2 with CareerLink, 4 with Children and Youth Services, 1 jointly with the Commissioners and the Chief Operations Office, 3 with the Commissioners, 1 with the Coroner, 1 with Election Services, 2 with Human Resources, 3 with the Berks County Jail, and 1 with the Recorder of Deeds. Item 3, a motion to authorize execution of the payments and electronic transfers for the week ending December 20th of 2024. Item 4, a motion to authorize execution of the payments and electronic transfers for the week ending December 27th of 2024. And item 5, a motion to authorize execution of employee payroll disbursements dated December 31st of 2024, subject to Kevin S. Barnhart, Chief Operations Officer's approval.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. We'll move now to reports of our treasurer and controller. We'll begin with our treasurer, Mitch Darcourt. Mitch.
Thank you, Commissioner. Excuse me. Today we have an opening balance of $205,827,754.10. Give us a balance to clear of $4,771,098.11, leaving us with a balance of $201,056,655.99. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Mitch. And we'll move now to our county controller, Joe Rutterow, with the controller's report. Joe.
Thank you, Commissioner Lineback. For the week ending 12/19/2024, we have a total accounts payable of $10,031,875.70. We have an employee payroll of $5,433,600.01 for a total cash disbursement of $15,465,475.71. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move now to our Chief Operations Officer, Kevin Barnhart.
Thank you, Commissioner Lineback. Happy to announce through the COO team that our effort to bring together the 3 counties to create the Regional Youth Detention Center is moving forward. About a week ago, Dauphin County signed a resolution at their Commissioners Board meeting, as well as the letter of support to the Department of Human Services for the capital cost to reopen our youth detention center as a tri-county facility. Last evening, Lehigh County also supported a resolution and a support letter to go to Department of Human Services. Larry Medallia and I were on that call. We were going to be called upon if necessary, but we both agreed certainly it was for them to sort out and to determine the best path forward for Lehigh. Ultimately, they agreed to it. Chad Libby, the chief JPO officer in Harrisburg, really delineated a lot of the struggles counties are having with beds and with violent juveniles in our communities. So our next step here is certainly to move forward with our outside counsel to create letter of intent, articles of corporation, as you might want to call them, to really bind us together mutually to make this effort. We're optimistic in discussions with the state. This money will possibly be coming to reopen the facility. And then from that point forward, each of the counties will obviously prepare their needs-based budget based on the operational cost going forward. So we're really, really excited about this. It's certainly not something we want to do, but it's kind of a thing that's has creeped up on us in the last couple of years. Lehigh closed their facility about 10 years ago. We closed our facility 12 years ago. Our bed use was down to 8. Theirs was down to a handful. And at that point, we felt Abraxas would be a good alternative, and that has not turned out very well. So unfortunately, the violence we are seeing in the juvenile community has just spiked, and we need to get these juveniles off the street for a short period of time to get them situated through the juvenile justice system. So we're very, very pleased with the outcome of the other 2 counties. It's challenging to pull counties together, but I think regional efforts like this, which we understand the state should be funding in our support, will go a long way going into 2025. Our intent is to open this for operation in the spring of 2026.
I understand from texting back and forth, I heard from Commissioner Pineda that he did a very good job speaking in favor of this facility. I didn't get to hear it, but Larry said
he did a bang up job. There was a 6-3 vote. We don't necessarily believe that any of the dialogue from the 6 was going to convince the other 3.
Right.
But that's the way democracy works. So we were pleased to see the outcome. And just a special note, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to our residents here in Berks County, and especially to our over 2,000 hardworking, dedicated county teammates. So thank you all.
Thank you very much.
One other thing I forgot. See, I got all excited.
Yeah.
We do have a special meeting on Monday, December 30th at 11 a.m. I just want to reemphasize that it is on a Monday. and it is December 30th at 11 a.m. So a little bit of difference, but this gives us an opportunity for any last minute contracts, any payroll, any salary type things, any
That
promotion.
need to be done before the
Yeah.
end of the year.
It's really nice to be able to have that inserted meeting at the end of the year, so we can get some cleanup items done. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. With that, we'll begin with commissioners' comments, and we'll start with Commissioner Michael Rivera.
Hey, thank you, Commissioner Lineback. Just a few things here. Yesterday morning, all three of us had the opportunity to attend the Breakfast of Thanks at Criers Hall. This is the annual event that the Hispanic Center puts on to thank everyone for their support and for the work they do for the community. We had a great time. We had kids there from Reading School District, from Muhlenberg School District, and from Wilson School District. There was a band there. Wilson was the band, right?
Wilson and Muhlenberg had the jazz
Wilson
band.
and Muhlenberg had the jazz
I think
band, and Reading
was the
Reading with the soloist.
and Reading has
Not
the
chorus.
the chorus there with the choir director. So they did a great job there. We had tons of fun. We all sang along, and Dave Klein was also there with his guitar. Sing, what is that? The name?
Dominic the Donkey.
Dominic the
Which is an
Donkey.
Italian song.
It's an Italian song, but it's become the staple song of that event for, I don't know, we've been singing it for I don't know how many years at that event. So great time yesterday morning. Yesterday evening, we also had the opportunity, all three of us, to attend the menorah lighting here in downtown Reading at 5th and Penn Street. And then after that, there was an event that the Jewish Federation had. I was not able to attend, but did have the opportunity to be out. There's actually a really good turnout, even though it was a rainy night last night, but people still showed up to have that and show support of the Jewish community. So thank you very much. There will be an election board meeting that should be starting in 4 minutes. If we run late here, we will start immediately after this meeting. And also want to take the opportunity to wish everyone a happy holidays, be it if you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. May you have a great holiday season, a blessed new year to all of our Berks County residents, to all of our employees here at the county. But no matter what you celebrate, just remember to take time out for yourself and to celebrate with family and friends, spend time with family and friends. Many times we have the busyness of the holiday season, right? We want to do this, we want to do that, we need to go here, we need to go there. And then by the time it's all done, we say, you know what? We really didn't take the time to do what we wanted to do. We didn't take the time to sit down and talk with our kids, with our parents, because there was so much going on. So I encourage everyone just to take some time, sit down, take a breath, and just talk with your family and friends, because the day that goes by is a day that does not come back. So again, happy holidays to everyone, and may God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rivera. Commissioner Dante Santoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we have a meeting coming up. I'll be brief. I'm not going to repeat the events that Commissioner Rivera talked about, but just a little bit additional on the Shine the Light on Anti-Semitism. I did attend the ceremony inside. The guest speaker was Hank Butler, who's the executive director of the Pennsylvania Jewish Coalition. He spoke about he's deals with issues in Harrisburg, and also the first honoree champion for peace was given to a friend of the board. We all know Michael Toledo, who's the executive director and CEO of the Central Hispano Daniel Torres Center. So he spoke of getting rid of the hate, and despite the differences that we all have, and there are many based on what we look like and who we love and our religion, etc., there's a lot more that binds us together. And he gave some great remarks, and I want to congratulate Michael for that honor. And I also want to wish everyone out there in Berks County land and all our employees a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and a Happy Holiday season. I'm not going to wish a Happy New Year yet because, as Kevin said, we have a meeting on the 30th, so I'll save that for then. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One additional item, one of the people I communicated with regarding the proposed at the time tax increase came back and said, Berks County needs to start a DOGE, D-O-G-E. I think everyone, Department of Government Efficiency. And I got back to him and said, we've had it long before it was put in place or by President-elect Trump. That's the savings and efficiency team, first headed by then Commissioner Barnhart, now headed by Commissioner Michael Rivera. And there have been a lot of successes in finding savings and efficiency. So just another piece to put out. We've had that probably, it's 4 full years, 4 or 5, because then we started in 2020, right before COVID hit.
There's no billionaires on that.
No billionaires. I don't think there's any millionaires on that either. Secondly, I want to note the work that some of our staff put into decorating. The decorations you see behind us, the tree out in the lobby, really boost our spirits during this Christmas season, and I really appreciate it. And I want to say thank you to our team. Thank you to our leadership team, but thank you to the entire team, our row officers, our department heads, and every single employee that are the faces of Berks County. A lot of times, commissioners, and I'm sure our row officers would agree with this, we as elected officials get the visibility. But if it wasn't for the people that do the work day in and day out in the various departments in the county, nothing would get done. They are the people that I am extremely thankful for as we come to the end of December. I also want to note Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas. But I learned something last night about Hanukkah. The Jewish calendar is based on the lunar calendar, and it's completely different. It wasn't Hanukkah last night. Hanukkah begins this year, 6 p.m. on Christmas Day. That's when Hanukkah begins. Now, Rabbi Michelson and Rabbi Joseph Lipsker both spoke last evening. If you haven't met those gentlemen, they're amazing. Rabbi Lipsker could be a stand-up comedian. He is one of the funniest people I've ever been around, but that was the first thing that they said. This isn't Hanukkah. Hanukkah is going to begin on December 25th. So to my Jewish friends, I say Happy Hanukkah. To my Christian friends and those that celebrate Christmas, a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone that celebrates something else. I appreciate it. With that, we'll go to our row officers. Any comments?
Just want to say happy holidays to everybody out there in Berks County and a blessed new year.
I share the sentiments of the board members on those same wishes.
Happy holidays. And I came because our software was being renewed today in the contract.
I saw that.
Wanted to point out that that was one of our major efficiency upgrades starting in 2008. It really allowed us to organize our office, make it highly efficient. And we were able over all those years to reduce the staff from 24 people down to 11. So if you make the proper use of technology, you can really get some substantial savings.
And that is very true, Fred. Not only did you decrease your staff dramatically, you decreased the footprint. And I believe we have other offices now in half of what used to be the recorder of deeds. And that is part of what SET does. Sometimes you spend money to save money, and technology that absolutely, normally through attrition, saves us on employees is significant. The largest part of almost any organization's budget is wages, salaries, and benefits, bar none. You talk school district, you talk a construction company, that's the big part. And so when you can eliminate the need for staff long-term, you fundamentally benefit the taxpayers. So thank you. That's a very good point. Any other comments from other row officers? I don't think we have any others on. With that, we'll go to public comment. no public comment in person, and there's no public comment online.
Before we adjourn, I would just like to let everyone know that the county buildings will close at noon on Christmas Eve. So if you plan doing anything here at the county on Christmas Eve, our buildings do close at 12 o'clock that day. Okay, with that, a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting stands adjourned and will begin